Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com, as well as the YouTube channel and NoDQ&A videos affiliate, ringsidenews.com. A few things to get to real quickly before the video. First off, you see Brock Lesnar with the NoDQ.com championship belt. Check the link in the description box if you're interested in getting your own championship belt for your action figure. Also, for those of you out there that live in the Portland, Oregon area, there's going to be an NXT event in Portland on Saturday, May 14th. I will be there at the show. And before the show, we're having a little NoDQ meetup. If you're interested in attending, if you live in the area or if you're going to the show, send me a message at facebook.com/AaronRift. I'll also have a link to the event page in the description box. Now with that being said, let's get down to your questions. Alright, this first one comes from the Daniel Allen. Could you see a swerve at Payback with Vince not picking Shane or Stephanie and Triple H to be in control of Raw and pick someone unexpected? I will say never. Eric Bischoff does have a DVD set that's set to be released later this year. Who knows, maybe Vince will bring him back to run Raw. But I think it's more likely we see Vince perhaps split the power down the middle and we have another brand extension, or Vince could flat out pick Shane or flat out pick Stephanie, which leads to an invasion from the losing side and we have a new invasion storyline. I'm expecting one of those two things to happen rather than Shane McMahon or some random person being brought back to control the show. All I know is that whatever the announcement is at Payback, I think it needs to be something significant. With Raw ratings dropping and overall interest still not at the level it was in the past, I think WWE needs to shoot a major angle at this show to really get fans interested in the summer storylines. Alright, this one comes from John. Hey Aaron, what were your thoughts on the Chyna tribute video? I think it's the worst they've ever done when we just saw tweets. That seems to be a new trend with WWE tribute videos, is showing tweets in addition to video footage. I saw a lot of people complaining about it, but I thought it was perfectly fine. I thought it was a very classy tribute, and honestly, it was more than I was expecting. When they did the graphic at the beginning, I thought that was going to be it. So it was a nice touch to do that tribute video. Who knows if Chyna will ever be mentioned again in WWE, but it was a very cool video. I thought it was well done. They showed the footage of her winning the Rumble, her winning the IC title, feuding with Jericho, feuding with Eddie Guerrero. They showed all of her highlights and showed all the tributes from various people in the wrestling industry. I thought it was really well done personally. I did not have an issue with the tweets being shown. I know some people don't like it. I thought it was cool. I thought it was a nice touch. And you know, some people were complaining about the music being too generic. I thought it was fine, honestly. Alright, this one comes from Andrew. If Chyna is finally inducted into the Hall of Fame, who do you see inducting her and why? Very interesting question. I do not see Triple H doing it. I do not see Stephanie doing it. I think that would be outrageous if Stephanie did it. I could see Shawn Michaels maybe doing it, although based on what I've seen from people online, I think Mick Foley might be the best person to induct her. I think he would give the most sincere speech and the most heartfelt speech of all the possible candidates. Vince Russo would be a good choice if WWE was willing to put him on television. Russo, I think, would do a really good job paying tribute to Chyna, although he might say things that could upset people in the company. I think Foley would have a good speech that's also diplomatic, and he wouldn't say anything too controversial that would get him in trouble. I guess Foley would be my pick to induct Chyna. Alright, this one comes from The Undertaker Guy. Did you see Russo's podcast tribute to Chyna? And if so, did you agree with everything he said about Triple H, Stephanie, Vince, and WWE? I saw parts of it. I think that it's hard to say what exactly is true and what's not. Russo left the company about a month before WWE shot the angle where Triple H and Stephanie first got together. And at first it was a storyline, and later it became a real life relationship between the two of them. Really, the only people that know what really happened in that whole love triangle was Triple H, Stephanie, and Chyna. I'm sure that Chyna was heartbroken about her relationship with Triple H ending, and maybe that was part of the reason why she ended up leaving the company. There's all sorts of different theories as to what happened. Was there some bad feelings that led to Chyna being removed from the roster, or was she asking for too much money? Was she being hard to work with? It could be a combination of everything for all we know. It's just really hard to say exactly what happened, but one thing's for certain, when Chyna left, it was a downward spiral for her, and a very tragic end to a career that had so much long-term potential. She could have been a major star for several years in WWE, longer than the amount of time that she was in WWE. Alright, this one comes from NoDQ&A fan. Hey Aaron, what are your overall thoughts on Raw this week? I thought it was boring and the fans were dead. Please answer in video. I thought it was a fine show. I did not feel it was a great show, but I felt in terms of building up the pay-per-view, I thought it was very solid. Most of the matches from the Payback pay-per-view were emphasized, and the storylines were addressed, and there was more build to those matches. They did stuff like the video package for Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, which I enjoyed, and they built up the Roman Reigns AJ Styles match very well, I thought, adding a lot of intrigue as to what Anderson and Gallows may or may not do at the pay-per-view, and creating this heat and friction between AJ and Roman Reigns. I thought it was well done. In terms of getting me interested in the Payback pay-per-view, I think WWE did a good job. And the booking, I thought, was very good because the younger talent went over on that show. All the guys that should be getting wins got wins on Raw, and even the guys we want to see do well, like Damian Sandow, he got TV time, but didn't have to do the job. So, overall, I thought it was a well thought out Raw. Yeah, the crowd could have been better, definitely. And I got this question here from Beast Slayer. What was up with the low reactions from the fans tonight? Very bland, the crowd as well as a very weird show. I think that this is the problem with introducing a lot of new characters. I mean, you look at this show and it's not like the crowd was dead for the entire thing. They did react to Enzo and Cass. They did react to Roman Reigns. I mean, that Roman Reigns Alberto Del Rio match had by far the most heat of anything on the entire show. So it's not like the fans were just not a good crowd. I think that maybe some of the fans are not really used to the new talent yet. I mean, you got guys like Sami Zayn, the Vaudevillains, Baron Corbin, all these new people, and it's going to take time, and that's why I'm really hoping that WWE doesn't panic and rush to bring back Cena, rush to bring back Orton and Rollins, and the new talent gets pushed aside. It's definitely a rebuilding period in WWE where you got to establish the new talent and give it time for the crowd to really get into these people. Alright, this one comes from Brian. Hey Aaron, does it make Gallows and Anderson look weak that Roman single-handedly beat them up twice on Raw? Okay, real quick, make sure you mention the names and not their usernames, because I'm confused by looking at the usernames. I had to think for a minute to know who you were talking about. Maybe I should be more in tune with what's going on. I'm not sure why Gallows has Impact Doc as his username still. But anyways, to answer your question, I didn't really feel it made them look weak. It's not like they lost a match to Roman Reigns 2-on-1. Roman Reigns comes out, makes the big babyface save, and clears the ring. I mean, it's fairly common. I didn't feel that it was a big deal, and I think people are once again too quick to say somebody's getting buried just because they get clotheslined out of the ring. The babyface beat up the heels and ran them off. It's very typical. It happens all the time, and this is what I would call nitpicking. I mean, I'm guilty of it myself. I sometimes nitpick and complain about every little thing, but this, I didn't see a big deal in it. I didn't think that it was really worth getting angry about. And yes, he did beat them up twice on one show. I mean, whatever. I mean, the whole point of the storyline is to create the intrigue in what Anderson and Gallows are going to do. And like I said, I think WWE did a very good job of it. So I give the segments a thumbs up. Alright, this one comes from Jishnu. Hey Aaron, with the League of Nations officially broken up, can we expect a Del Rio push in the title picture soon? I think of all the League of Nations members, Del Rio will be the one to get the biggest push, although he could not even beat Roman Reigns with a roll-up. So you want to talk about, if you're going to argue for anybody getting buried in that segment, I think it was the worst for Del Rio, because even with the outside interference, Del Rio rolls up Reigns and is still not able to beat him. And, you know, I will argue about that too, that Roman Reigns is the champion, so you want to protect the champion as much as possible. The only guy that really should be protected besides Roman Reigns is the challenger, AJ Styles, which WWE has done. AJ has been winning matches, and he hasn't been looking weak. That is what's important overall. As far as Del Rio getting a push, I do feel of the League of Nations members, he will get the biggest push. He was apparently brought back with a big deal. He got a lot of money to come back. And I think WWE should bring back Ricardo and just give Del Rio this huge monster push again. Sheamus, I really could not care any less at this point. And Rusev, I think the damage has perhaps already been done with him. I'm not sure if he'll be able to be taken really seriously again. I mean, like I called a year or two ago, he'll probably end up being a comic relief type character, like what Kozlov ended up being with Santino Marella. I mean, I'm expecting that sooner than later, and it's already happened to a degree. You know, the stuff with Ruru and Summer Rae, I mean, that was when it was really going downhill, and the League of Nations, of course, did Rusev no favors whatsoever. Alright, this one comes from True Legend. Hi Aaron, don't you think title reigns should be longer for the mid-card belts? Wouldn't it make title changes more significant? I would agree on that, but also I would agree with the idea that you should be putting the championship on somebody who has credibility and putting the title matches in high-profile positions. You can have somebody have the U.S. title for a year, but it ain't gonna matter all that much if it's in the pre-show match every month, the kickoff match. It's all about positioning and who has the title, and if the title is in an interesting storyline. There's a lot of different factors besides just a person having a lengthy title reign. There's so many variables to it. Alright, this one comes from Ben Jarman. Do you see WWE adding more members to Bulletproof or sticking with Balor, Anderson, and Gallows? If WWE does go forward with this faction and we do have a Bulletproof or Balor Club faction in WWE, I would not let it get too big. It's always a bad thing when there's too many members, and WWE likes to do these three-person teams. That seems to be the norm in WWE as of late. So I think it would be best to just stick with the guys that were previously in the Bullet Club, do Balor, Anderson, and Gallows, and if you can sign them, bring in the Young Bucks. But unless you bring in the Young Bucks, I would just keep it with Balor, Anderson, and Gallows if you're going to do that faction. Alright, this one comes from David. Who should be the U.S. champion after Kalisto's disappointing and title-degrading reign as champion? I would like to see it be on the waist of Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn or even somebody like Baron Corbin. Put it on somebody who's going to be positioned as the future of the company. I could very well see Ryback winning the title from Kalisto and then dropping it back to John Cena, and WWE just goes back to the John Cena US title open challenge storyline. That would not surprise me at all, but it needs to be on somebody who has credibility. And like I said, not just that, but putting it in higher profile positions on the card and having it involved in more meaningful storylines. There's a lot of things you need to do besides just getting the title off of Kalisto at this point. Alright, this one comes from Marcus S. Your thoughts on the booking of the women's division post-WrestleMania 32? I like the idea of Natalya going for the title. I mean, I think it was a mistake. I still think it was a mistake to have Sasha Banks not win the title at WrestleMania. I do like Natalya getting the title shot, but this whole feud, they're trying to bring in Bret Hart and Ric Flair to enhance that match at Payback. Problem is, Bret Hart is very bitter, and he went publicly saying he had no desire to be at the show other than to support Natalya. And Ric Flair's having issues at airports and going on television and telling Natalya to kill herself. I mean, Ric Flair's just a crazy old man, and they're really not helping. I mean, as much as I love Bret Hart and Ric Flair, they're doing anything but enhancing this feud between Charlotte and Natalya. So, you know, you can't really blame WWE. On paper, bringing in Bret Hart and Ric Flair sounds like a good idea to get people interested in that match. It's just that Ric Flair and Bret Hart are not putting their hearts into it, so to speak. And to me, that's definitely dragging down the match. Alright, this one comes from Liam Tennant. Hey Aaron, do you see the Owens and Zayn main roster feud elevating both of them and making them huge stars? I really hope so. I think that this match at Payback is really important for both guys. I think it's crucial for them to go out there and steal the show and tear the house down. And I think the Chicago crowd will be really hot. I mean, this is definitely one of the best cities for these guys to have a one-on-one match. And Chicago has a good indie following and a good Ring of Honor following. I think that they'll get a really good reaction, and I have no doubt they'll have a great match. They've been working together for so many years. They know each other so well. I'm just hopeful that WWE will give them a lot of time. Like I said in the predictions video, if they're given a good 20 minutes, they can very well have a match of the year contender, and that's really what I'm hoping for. To me, that is the match to watch at Payback, and the match that can really steal the show and perhaps be one of the best matches of the entire year. Alright, that'll wrap it up for this edition of NoDQ&A video. NoDQ.com has got you covered with all the latest regarding Payback. Make sure you check out my predictions video with Jeff Meacham, and stay tuned to the YouTube channel. Subscribe if you haven't already at youtube.com/NoDQCAW, and I will see you guys next time.